All right, we're back. Sadly, on a 12-point loss on the road to the Georgia Bulldogs. You might remember last year we struggled on the road even with the number one team and had to have some window heroics to beat that. So it wasn't wholly unexpected. I think a lot of people out there have gotten a little ahead of ourselves with the top 25 team and how great we did last year. I was saying on Twitter and just in general on this podcast that every away game win with this offense on this team and how we've been playing is an upset. And it sucked tonight. I thought tonight would be one of those upsets we could pull. Georgia should be one of the worst teams in the SEC. So if we're going to pull an away game win, it should have been this one. But the balls didn't go our way. The calls didn't go our way. The offense was bad. Overall, that there was not a lot of redeeming factors in this game. And I'm hoping this podcast can be, we might have some more losses this year. And I'm hoping this podcast can be kind of a way to pick apart what happened and how to talk about it with your coworkers and your friends, and maybe kind of some camaraderie around some of these hard to watch games. Matt, welcome.
Yeah, tough loss. We don't like losing to Georgia. Bruce really values this rivalry. This is a big one to lose on the road. We swept them last year, and even as bad, we're going to get into so much of the bad today. Auburn came back from down 11 to tie it up in the first half. They got within 4, like 3 or 4 times in the second half, and they just couldn't quite get over the hump. And tough loss. And I think the bigger concern, I'm going to play both sides of this. Some people are going to jump off a cliff because they haven't been around basketball very much, and you can lose, especially with a team that it struggles to score. Like you said, we are going to have more losses. Like, get ready. We're not going to have the undefeated podcast like last year. But you would like to think that you can have a bad game or a couple bad games to start SEC play and get better. The question is, though, man, our roles do not feel defined at all on this roster. Like, there's weird rotations, some of it's been injuries, but a lot of it just feels like something is off, other than bad shooting and inefficient offense. And I think maybe that's some of the stuff we can explore tonight, but ultimately didn't shoot well enough, didn't compete well enough at times defensively or smartly enough, which I think you were wise on in our group text. And it's a tough loss, and guess what? You get to go host Arkansas on Saturday, and now that game becomes a little more important because you want to defend home court. Like you said, the road games are going to be tough. Can you find a way to beat a good Arkansas team at home on Saturday?
I knew this wasn't a great team. We've known this isn't a great team, but I was really hoping we could win these first 2 SEC games so that we could have a lot of hype going into that Arkansas game. Me and Ryan both circled that Arkansas game as the game we're most looking forward to, and this really takes a lot of steam out of that matchup. Still very excited. They also lost to Missouri, but it's just, we could have really felt like some steam going in. Usually in these,
clarify, sorry for people who might be listening. They lost to LSU. They are losing to Missouri right now tonight, so they could be 0-2 coming to Auburn, but then that just means Arkansas desperately needs a win.
We'll both be on desperate mode at that point, but that's part of my predictions too. Keep your rivals down, and if we can keep Arkansas down instead of giving them a bounce back win in our own arena, that would suck. That would hurt even more. So it kind of goes both ways. If we both lose these games, it'll be desperation, and so anything will hurt. If we'd won our games, it would have been the other way around. But I want to usually I think we're going to do these lost podcasts as a stat that we feel like is most indicative of the loss. But before we get into that, the one thing I might start doing a little bit too, just because this is going to be a negative podcast, I think, and you might hear my tone of voice. I'm not like crying or anything. I'm not that sad. I'm sick, so that's an issue. So don't think the tone or the more subdued is from the sad loss. But I'm going to see if Matt can give me something nice here. Say something nice real quick before we get into all this negative stuff.
That's a good question.
It's a little harder for this matchup, honestly. I figured we were going to cascade into so much negativity that we maybe could start with that one tidbit of good, because I don't think we can go 10 bad and then follow up with good. Everybody might sign off and stop listening by then. So
I like that we bounced back. Broom went down with what we thought. A lot of doctors on Twitter out there, shout out, people on TV calling it an Achilles injury. He went down. Auburn's down 21-10 on the road at Georgia. They cut 11-0 run, immediately bounced back. It was nice to see that. And ironically, tonight, a lot of the good moments were with weird, not the stars that you would expect. And we'll get into that a little more. So Flanagan had a couple nice moments. but then disappears a lot. Only played 19 minutes tonight. I thought Zepp made a lot of nice plays out of nowhere. He hadn't done much, and he showed kind of the value of him. Janai Broom, we have got to get Ben on this podcast so we can talk about Janai Broom, because our group chat is just popping with different opinions on Janai Broom. But 22-12 after potentially people thought he was like out for the year. I thought he battled. I thought he really played his tail off. He played 29 minutes. The staff, clearly, you can agree or disagree with it, they think Janai Broom is one of the only reliable pieces on this team. Him and Jalen are playing the most minutes every night at this point.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my positive little note to go before we go on the negatives. Not necessarily Broom itself, but they've clearly tinkered with this offense. They clearly looked up and said, we are in trouble. This offense is not clicking. It's not growing. It's not going where we need it to be. Johan Chance aren't developing the way we thought. Let's try something new. And their new is to feed Janai Broom and Jalen Williams down low. They're looking for that every single time they go down the floor. I think we're going to need to discuss maybe if that's going to actually work. It worked from a stats standpoint from Janai Broom. I don't know if it's going to work strategy-wise for winning, but I just like that they're tinkering right now and giving something a shot. And it's still early enough in SEC play that we can give this tinker another 2 or 3 games and maybe tinker again. Even that's all I wanted, was to keep tinkering with this team. So I'm hoping it works out. I hope it works great. I hope we turn a corner here. And, Jalen gave us 5 points tonight. You turn a corner with Jalen giving you 15 or something, all of a sudden this game's different. Yep. But hopefully we keep tinkering. Hopefully that's something to keep watching with this team. But
it's a good point. And if you're worried about that, you've been worried. All coaches, if you watch college basketball, they all get stuck in ruts. They all like to do the same things. They all have certain identities. But I just don't know what to tell people. If you've watched Auburn since Bruce arrived, what is this, year 9? This is so unlike any team he's had. He is clearly throwing everything he's got outside of the starting lineup. We talked about that last pod. He hasn't messed with the starting lineup, but literally everything else, roles, positions, minutes, plays, offensive strategy, defensive strategy. He is throwing stuff at the wall. So nobody wants to win more than him and this staff. And I think people, all of us, we can have our opinions on a fan podcast and stuff, but I see so much but that should scare you, because they are tinkering so much that we don't seem to have an identity. I think I sent y'all a link of what Bruce said in the pregame. He's more concerned about the effort and winning one-on-one matchups. And it's 15 games into the year. And he's talking about he has to beat Mike White, and they have to do their job. They have to play with more. They have to want it more than the other team. That should be given with Bruce Pearl teams. That is and I think that I just feel like that is driving him nuts. And I think that shows in a lot of the tinkering that's going on.
There really does. We can get more into this too after maybe the stats, but the attitude seems off, the swagger, the chemistry, and we can get more into that. But maybe if you can pick 2 or 3 or 4, I know 2 big ones I feel off the bat, stats here. My 2 big ones I feel off the bat, I'm sure you have a couple too, is points in the paint. Yep. Georgia with 36, at Auburn with 28. Another issue we've talked about with some other games, and also fast break points. 10 points for Georgia, 4 for Auburn. And if you watch our offense, we need the fast break points. We always have in Bruce Pearl's offense, but 4 tonight is not great. And to be beat on top of that by 6 more points from them, and then points in the paint, we're supposed to be the block party. We're supposed to be the big guys with Jalen and Cardwell and Broom and play tough defense. And we just keep consistently getting roasted in the paint. We keep getting backdoor cuts in the paint, keep getting driven by in the paint. I don't know if it's partly when they're bringing Broom out or centers out, or if it's because we go for the block and then there's rebounds or passes off that block. Well, but that's my 2 big stats I'm looking at, and I don't know if you have some others.
Great stats. You are absolutely right. You said that in a way that was brilliant, given your 6 status. This is like Jordan performance. Teams are absolutely taking Broom away from the basket. In our group chat, we keep talking about who's responsible for these wide open lanes and finishes at the rim. Where did Castleton play in that first game when Florida made their adjustment? He played at the top of the 3-point line. And Castleton's a good player that you can't just not guard. I don't know about Georgia's big guys. Maybe we should have played Broom off a little more, but teams are clearly elevating those big guys to get the shot blocker away, or at least they're doing it more often than they were 3 weeks ago, right? I think we can all agree on that. Great eye there. Two great stats too. How about steals? Georgia getting 10 steals to our 6 when that has to be our identity. We're just not turning teams over. Okay. We actually only turned it over 11 times. I think only 3 times in the second half. But we've got to turn over Georgia more than 11 times with the style of basketball that we have to play. That's huge.
The intensity just doesn't seem to be there, right? For that, it doesn't. Where's KD's Hamburglar moments? He's just not out there doing them, you know.
And I think Bruce is in a quandary, right? Because on one hand, he's like, hey, our defense only works with effort and energy, and we have to get up in these guys. We have to be kind of psycho the whole time. But what's happening is the guys that are doing that at times fall asleep and get beat backdoor and it's a one-on-one straight at Broome. And Broome, I don't think he's a great defender outside of blocks, but he's not terrible. He's not Walker Kessler, though. So we can't just be funneling guys to him. So I've been clamoring, I still am. Let's play really solid. I almost want us to play less aggressive and just make teams hit tough shots. Like but that is so foreign to the way Bruce plays.
Is that what it was last year? It feels like we pushed them and made so much intensity and so much great defense one-on-one that we forced these turners. We forced them to speed their clocks up and really get going. Or was it because they knew Kessler was in there? And then on top of that, we brought that intensity. They knew they couldn't just drive by and hope that rim was going to be open. And now they can kind of half and half think that, or even strategize around that we're going to pull the chair out kind of on Broome, at times. So
it's a great point. And Kessler, what was so underrated about him is he could recover. He could be out guarding the same guy Broome's guarding, but he would somehow get back in the play last minute and get these crazy blocks. And I think that's what we're feeling.
I wish our offense didn't suck so much, because I've been so enjoying watching Cardwell play defense, and his minutes just keep shrinking because we need the offense from Jonai. But even tonight I was watching Cardwell, and it's different. Last year we watched Kessler go all at the 3-point line, follows guys all the way in, get excited when the guard's on him. I still get excited when Cardwell's got to guard him. I don't think that same way with Broome.
No.
And I'm not looking for it for Broome the way I am for Cardwell, but maybe he's not showing it. And that's why I'm not seeing it. Because Cardwell, he is out there making noise when he is playing defense. He is out there arms wide open, tracking his guys all the way into the rim, causing turnovers. He gets steals pretty consistently. It's kind of crazy for a guy his size. I usually hate when the big man reaches in, because Anthony McLemore used to do that and get so many silly fouls at the 3-point line, but Dylan Cardwell's getting them. So keep going, big boy. And I just hate that we've been even on a run, I think, tonight where it was like Cardwell, Jalen, Trey. And we've seen that a couple of times now. I think the Cardwell, Trey kind of lineup there that brings kind of an intensity I think we're missing, or an athleticism we're missing. But then the offense, I think we literally called it out. There was a possession there where we played some really good defense and then scored 0 points for an entire 4 minutes. But our defense was great. We tossed 2 or 3 turnovers. Yeah, we had a couple fast breaks. One that got it was just a steal by Cardwell, and then he got it passed back to him, but then he missed. And then we had another one, and Allen Flanagan missed on the fast break, and that was it. And it was just man, great defense, but that's why we can't play you guys every time. You can't finish.
Everybody wants to complain. I would just challenge people to, what would you do? Look, I'm officially, you're usually the alarmist, right? That's your role on this podcast. I'm not trying to plant any bad seeds, but are you not slightly concerned of the Dylan Cardwell playing time situation? I'm concerned.
I think it all comes down to they've decided that they're working through Jonai Broome and Jalen Williams on offense, and they can't do that if Jonai Broome's not in, and Cardwell can't play any other positions, and Jonai Broome can't play any other positions, so they just have to do it. And it's super annoying because we've seen the intensity that Cardwell brings when we thought Broome, and that whole little run I was talking about was when we thought Broome was hurt, I believe, and there was a kind of a run because they'd gone up on us a good bit, and then we brought this intensity that was different. So it makes you that I think that's where we'll have to get to on. Clearly, Broome did do some really cool things tonight and scored 22 points, 12 rebounds, but there's a lot of volume stuff, 17 shots.
Sure.
He shot 2 of 5 from 3. That was crazy. He started off 2 of 2 from 3, and we were like, what is going on? I would have put $1,000 that he would never hit 2 threes in a game, but then he just kept shooting, so he went 2 of 5 eventually. And so even his 22 points, I kind of want to just take 6 off of him, because I don't expect that to ever happen again. I don't think those 2 threes were his second and third three all time in his career over 3 seasons. So you can't expect that every game. I think some of that was a little like desperation. It wasn't good that he was shooting those. So
Well, it was and it wasn't. They're leaving him completely wide open, right? They're doing what we just talked about that we couldn't do against Castleton, and he hit two. He was 2 for 5. By the way, only guy to hit 2 threes tonight. Jalen took 5 and only hit one. Wendell took 6 and didn't hit one. So I'm not going to get on if nobody's guarding you in basketball. Now, if you can't shoot a 3, dribble in and take a 12-footer, but you have to be a threat to score. I actually like that he took maybe not the 5th one. But look, if he's wide open in an offense that we can't make shots at times, I'm not going to get mad about Wendell forcing threes or Deny taking open threes, okay? Unless he's taking 6 a game and not hitting any. I'm just not going to get mad about it.
So what stat are we picking here? What is the one stat that was the indicative of this loss?
Yeah, I mean, it would be easy to just look at all the shooting splits and say, well, we just didn't shoot. We made the same number of shots as them. How about this? We got 16 more shots at the rim than they did and made the same amount of shots. That's significant. But I would also point to this. Where did most of our offense come from tonight, Jackson?
It's all down low from Broome.
So it should be alarming to the staff and really everybody that we got outscored in the paint by 8. I think you might have mentioned that already. Like, we actually were attacking the paint and doing pretty well inside, much better than outside, like we've talked about. But man, to be outscored by that Georgia team in the paint, that's not good.
I'm glad we're on the same mind there. That's what I was going to pick also as points in the paint. It's the same thing that happened at Memphis when we lost to Memphis in Atlanta. We just can't function like that. I think we've talked about a million times now. We know for sure that if we can lock one thing in with this team, it's that the offense is bad and it's not getting any better. And no matter how we move this around, it's never going to be great. We can maybe get it to average. Well, we have to keep teams below 70 points, in my opinion, to win a game. I don't think we're going to win, but I mean, if we won one game in the SEC where the other team scored over 70, like, that's my betting line. It's like 50-50 one for winning a game that the other team scores over 70. So we have to keep them under 70, and we're getting blown by in the paint and all these backdoor cuts and these points off turnovers and points in fast break. Every free 2-pointer, every time we turn the ball over and they go, and there's been a bunch of these too, where they turn us over and it is by themselves. No one's even trailing them. Like, how many fast break points have we missed in the last year or two? It feels like a lot with KD and Flanny, and they just not finished on fast breaks. And then we see the other teams, nobody's even playing defense on them when they go down there and they get those 2 points for free. And that hurts a ton for a team that's not scoring a lot. And so that's the point of the points in the paint, and every time they get a backdoor cut that's open, every time they had a play that was interesting, and shout out to them for doing this, they backed down Broome a bit and then inched him out and then made a little pass to a guy cutting straight in there. I don't know who was guarding them, but clearly they pretty sure that was the plan, was to get down low, not to shoot on Broome, was to just pull him out by dribbling it once or twice a little further out. So if you just can't let them score 76, you can't let them score 38 in the first half and expect to win games like this on the road, especially.
And look, teams are going to score 70, but let's at least make them earn it, right? Like, it's so you're right. And I don't know what issues may be going on or may not be going on within the team. I'm not there, obviously. But I will say this, it is debilitating when you're having to work so hard for your offense and it takes one person slipping up, falling asleep, missing an assignment. I didn't see as many miscommunications tonight, which was good. And Georgia hit some tough shots, but I would feel so much better. And again, I can't tell if I'm holding them to too high of a standard defensively because I know how good we have to be defensively. But the first 2 possessions, not to pick on Wendell Green, one of them was, what were they? I almost wrote it down. I wanted to have notes almost, because one of them was just a 3 closeout that he didn't even put a hand up, didn't even bother to run over there. Wide open 3 in the corner, bang. And then the first draw, what happened on the first? He actually got a steal, I think, on the first possession. But then after that, he was way outside looking for a steal and let his guy go right to the rim. And I'm looking at that like, we can't give them and we obviously don't need to go down 10, right? That's one of the big takeaways from this game. We went down 11. We fought back once, and we just don't have the firepower. You remember that Final Four team? We would go down 20,
Yep.
and it was like we're never out of it.
We're
It was
gonna go
almost
on
like
our run. We're gonna go on our. Just
we're
wait.
gonna
Not
hit
this team.
threes, not this
Might,
team. So
might need to turn it off if we go down 10 at any point because it's not happening.
well, and you never know. You do a great job talking about these games. Like tonight's a great example. Like, was there like a 5% chance that Auburn could have pulled that out in the last 5 minutes? Yeah, but you keep
I
watching and you know it's not going to happen.
I
But
wanted to turn that game off so bad. I was like, oh, I have a podcast, dude. There's something weird could happen here, and I have to know about it. And you just watch, and then I'm like trying to justify, like, oh, well, you got to learn little things about this team. Like the fact that Bruce is clearly like trying to make a point in those last couple of minutes to be like fouling up, to being like, y'all need as much practice as possible. So we're going to keep playing hard. But
well, let's
man, it's
talk about
tough to watch. It's tough to watch when you know your team's going to lose, but they're still trying. Yeah.
let's talk about that. Do you think that Bruce called the dogs off and put the other? So what I'm specifically talking about, he kept Jalen and Janai in. He played Trey, who hasn't played closing minutes. I don't recall if he did. Trey, Zep Jasper, and Chris Moore. Do you think he was basically throwing in the towel and wanting to use it for practice? I hadn't considered that. Or I think the way he was coaching, it was more of a message of like, we're still in this game and I'm going to play 5 guys who are going to bust their tail and cause
Yep.
havoc. And
The
by the way,
second
they
one,
did.
he was making a point that these guys are busting their tail and these guys are the guys that actually make some chaos happen and go out there, and the rest of you guys are slumping and giving bad attitudes and keeping your head down and didn't go after it all game. Well, I'm gonna put my young guns in that'll do something about it. My guys that'll
And
hustle.
your old
And
guns,
whoever's
your
hustling,
yeah,
our
um,
classic try hard guys.
well, I got to tell you, man, like that's a risk. You think about Wendell Green, Alan Flanagan, and KD Johnson in his game in Athens. And I know we were going to lose probably either way, but that'll be a real good test of this locker room and how well they take that, because I just think that's a significant. I could be overblowing it. That's what we do on the fan podcast. I think about those 3 guys as 3 of the more vulnerable guys to like something like that kind of sticking with them. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we can officially call points in the paint as our biggest stat for this game. I think kind of like we do MVP. I wanted to clarify that's what we're picking. But I agree. I think there's some attitude issues that are going to be happening on this team. Anytime you're losing, anytime you're struggling, things get a little tense. But we don't have a star on this team. And in fact, the stars have moved around and vets are back, but they're not playing super well. And it's Wendell's team or it's Broom's team. Oh, we're playing through Jalen. Oh, Alan Flanagan's been here a long time. He's a guy. Cardwell and Chris Moore, what great attitude guys that are going to let you hear it and let you hustle. It's too many. It's too many guys that could be trying to grab the bull by its horns. And you're going to like tear the team apart trying to do that a little bit. I think we've all been on teams like that in the past if you play sports. And I've had this classic problem. I've always had the Chris Moore Cardwell problem in my own teams. I've never been great at sports necessarily, but I love it. And I'm intense and I like to talk and I like the strategy and I get into it, but I've never been a great player. And so you can't really lead a team if you're not also leading on the court a lot of times. As much as we love Cardwell and Chris Moore, they're not going to be the ones that can really grab the horns because they can't make the plays when we need them. We don't know what kind of leader Broom is or if he's the future. Wendell's just, I don't know what's going on. We'll have to do a whole deep dive on Wendell here because I think we kind of decided that Wendell, we're going to live and die by the Wendell, and we're dying by the Wendell. And he went 0-6 tonight from 3.
Here's another stat for you. If you're looking for another stat, if you didn't like our points in the paint, how about Jalen and Wendell shooting 3 for 21 total?
I mean, we were on Jalen Williams. Is he going to score tonight? Watch. He scored 0 points in the first half. Apparently, he had a 3 to start the second half that I must have missed at some point because right at the end, he got some free throws. And I was like, is this Jalen's first points all game? And like the whole new strategy is to play through Jonai and Jalen. And we're waiting to see if he even gets any points at all in the game. And then Wendell was 0-6 from 3. And we'll talk about that a little bit. But also, he was 4 turnovers, 3 assists, which is also brutal because we've talked about that coming into the year is, does Wendell make the team around him better? Because we're going to need that this year without a bunch of stars. He can't just go out there and be the point-scoring point guard. He's got to be making people better. Tonight, he did not make anyone better out there. And then on top of that, he was loudly missing from three. I think at least 4 of those threes were NBA range early shot clock threes. 1 or 2 of them were in the rhythm, which is good. I always support the in the rhythm stuff. I even support like kind of a 15 seconds left on the clock NBA three from him once he's made a pass somewhere. What I don't want is that dribble up the court, look around, and just take one without ever making a pass, because this team can't handle that. This team needs a guy that can make the rest of them better. They can't have a guy that's just there as the wild card. Last year, you could have the wild card Wendell. Can't do it this year. So you just that stat line is just brutal, and
Yeah.
you just hope it's not. Yeah, it didn't feel like Georgia was even doing anything special against
Yeah.
him. It's not like the classic problem we think he's going to have against tall guards and people pushing up on him and double teaming him at the top of the key. He just didn't play well.
Yeah, I thought Georgia looked like a Mike White coach team. I think we have to give him credit. He's given Bruce trouble over the years. If you think about our record against Florida, it wasn't great. Florida was never great, but they played a certain style. They play physical. They play really a defensive-minded type basketball. I have not watched Georgia this year. I was pretty impressed with how they handled it. But no, you're right. They switched to a zone some. They even had some possessions where they were starting man and going zone about halfway through, which I think was a really good decision to get our guys to think and slow down and overthink a little bit. But yeah, look, it's always glass half full, glass half empty, right? Like on one hand, how in the world was Auburn within 4 with Wendell and Jalen playing the games they played? I don't know. With chances to kind of hang around and steal that game. But the other side of that is maybe Georgia's just not that good. And we really kind of missed an opportunity, like you said, to get an elusive road win. So Jalen, I don't want to even talk about Jalen because he's just invisible too much. I mean, it just continues to be a problem. You were on that. I'm his biggest guy, but he played the most minutes tonight because Johan is just as invisible, by the way, more invisible when he plays. Jalen's got to be better. And it's got to be driving Bruce crazy because you said it, 5 or 6 possessions to start the game. We're getting great looks inside with our 2, at this point, best players. Maybe Wendell's in there, but like Jalen and Janai, like you said, and we're just not making them. And
Jalen had a really great back down where his defender melted like butter. It felt like he just backed on he was within a foot. His hand was within a foot of that basket, and he kind of turned around. He even got his whole body all the way around. Still missed it. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe that. I was like, what a move just to completely miss the basket a foot away from you. Just always with the floaters, always with the backing out of things. And I think this is comes to my point I've been saying the whole year, been saying all last year. He could struggle shooting if he would go into the body of people and get some foul calls.
Well,
he could be more consistent at 5 turns into 10 almost every night.
It goes back to, man, he just doesn't look like, I swear he gets hit. He has these leaners. He's getting hit on a lot of these shots and he's just not getting the calls. And it's almost comical at this point. I think a lot of it goes back to what we talked about last episode. You have to look like you want the contact and you have to kind of have a certain like swagger there. And he's just not getting the calls, and that's going to drive Bruce. Bruce is probably going to get a tech at some point because it's clearly he's getting him inside. He's getting him going to the rim, right? I know some people want him to go dunk on somebody or but he's getting Jalen to the basket, and he's going to shoot, and he misses the shot, and then he doesn't get fouled. So you're right. He needs to. We've all talked about it. I think it's disrespectful to even focus on him too much with the game he played tonight. He's got to be better for Auburn to get to the tournament. I mean, he has to play better.
So we've shrunk this roster down to 8-ish, right? Now that Johan and Chance aren't really playing. Is it 8? Is it 9?
10.
It's still 10. I guess take out Lior. That's 9.
No, it's 10. So it's Trey and Wendell. It's Zep and KD. It's Chris and Flan. It's Jalen and Johan. Johan's still playing backup minutes every half. And it's Broom and Cardwell.
Okay. Well,
and Lior's 11.
Yeah, I guess I was just thinking, I wonder how many of these guys need to have a good game for us to win a game. Tonight, only one guy really had a good game, and it was Jonai. With the offense, at least, there were still some issues defensively, but that might be strategy-wise. Maybe Flanagan with 11 points, 5 of 10 from the field. He got some points when we need him and kept us in the game at a little bit of times. But how many guys, like, we have 11 guys, I guess, like you're saying, or 10 guys or whatever it is. Like, you kind of just bet that a couple of them are going to step up each game, even if it's not the same guys every game. it's going to be somebody. In this game, we didn't really have anybody but one. So, like, how many do we need to step up? Is it 2 or 3? Is it pinned on the player? Like, you just
Yeah.
assume that amongst Wendell and Jalen and KD and who else is on here? I don't know, those 3 at least. You would consider at least every game one of them to step up. And the fact that all 3 of those were so nobodies tonight, I guess you add in Broom, if those 4 players there, and you kind of expect one, like 2 of the 4 of those to almost always have a good night, and they just didn't, you know?
They didn't. And I don't know what the number is. It depends on the game. But the question I would ask, taking into account both ends of the floor, and the answer to this question could be 0, by the way. But for the Auburn like standard, how many of those players played winning basketball tonight?
Not very many.
I think Broom did. I think Chris Moore probably did. I think Zep Jasper probably did. Maybe Flan.
Yeah, I think I'd give it to Flan. He kept us in it in some little stretches there.
And I know that's like not that's just watching the game. Like, who did their job well, played with that effort and energy that Bruce always talks about, and was up to the challenge of winning on the road in this league. Like, and here's the thing. Fans can go crazy and be mad and be frustrated and say the team's bad and it's over and whatever. These guys got to play 16 more of these. Like, there is no you better not be tucking your tail and getting upset about this one if you're on, if you're a player, because you've got to go strap it up against, 12 more teams and 16 more games. And you have these goals. Like, you've got to get to 9 SEC wins probably to make the tournament, the big dance. Like, we got to, I'm really concerned, not that we lost this game. You did a great job talking about how it happens. We almost lost last year. We lost 2 years ago in Athens. Like, it's hard to win on the road in this league. We'll say it over and over again. It's more the way we look. That's what has me really concerned.
I wonder what kind of strategies Bruce is going to have to give Ed that deep bag of 20 plus years of coaching or whatever he's got to get this team looking like a team at this point. I think he thought he had it at different times this year that we kind of were getting an identity. We're starting to get there, and it's just completely devolved into, I don't know who our stars are. I don't know who our roles are. I don't know who should be shooting what. It seems, the one thing we kind of know right now is they're working the ball down to Janai and Jalen a lot, but he's going to have to make this team believe in something, to believe that something is their way of winning. Like, they need to go out there with some sort of swagger that this type of game's our game, a turnover game, a fast break game. We used to have a 3-point shooting game, comeback games. Are we a block team? Are we a defense team? What are we? And they need to know that going in, they believe that's what we are. And when the game starts coming our way, we know this is our game kind of situation. I don't think they believe in any part of our game right now out there. I don't know if they believe, if they know what they should be going after, because they don't know their own identity. That's what it is, I guess. That's what it all boils down to, identity. We don't have one. We're still trying to figure it out. So I think, I don't know, they only has 2 or 3 more, because the momentum's a big deal in SEC basketball, and got to get that identity going.
Well, let's take a step back too. You were on this in the offseason. A lot of people were. Like, the risk Bruce took by staying loyal to his guys and not recruiting over their heads was that we have this great culture. We have this great locker room. We have this bunch of guys who have been around. They're winners. And that has shown up this year, by the way. Let's not be prisoners of the moment. We've won a lot of close games, closer than we would have liked, but I still think that has some value. But man, it just, the lack of shoot. A lot of people wanted us to bring a shooter. Clearly, we need people who can shoot. So I think it's fair the way it's played out. Look, obviously,
I think this will be a big scorecard or indicative or whatever of what is the future of college basketball. You're right. He stuck with his guys and said, I'll take these guys that are bonded and these guys that have been through it together, and these guys that are hustlers will play my system and be a team and not get too hot or whatever, over some of these guys and risk splintering my team's egos and different thing, like recruiting Yuri Collins over a Wendell Green like I wanted so badly, recruiting a 3-position guy over our other guys, which I did think we did. We just missed, I think, on a couple guys, but at the same time, was never loud about it. So you wonder if next year, a lot of these guys are supposed to stick around again, but if this team devolves, it gets even worse than this, I think it's going to be a big AAU style transfer portal situation, and it's going to suck. And that's just going to be the future of basketball. And it's not on Bruce, it's on the system that he's going to have to become brutal about it. And it's going to suck as fans because we enjoyed watching players like Cardwell grow over 3 years. And it's going to be tough, but it's the future. And so we'll see. Hopefully this turns around and proves everybody wrong.
We've got 16 games plus the SEC tournament, plus hopefully more after that. So like long way to go, but we're here to give takes and what we're seeing. And that's a clear thing. And we didn't even mention the biggest factor, in my opinion. I mean, the curveball that Johan and Chance have been, whether due to injury or just not being quite ready or lack of playing time, whatever you want to like kind of put on it, like that clearly is a huge. Bruce wasn't expecting that. And so sometimes that happens. Look, all you have to do is look around college basketball. Kentucky, a couple years ago, didn't make the tournament, right? Like they just had a bad year with all the talent and all the stuff. Like it doesn't take much the way college basketball is now, especially in the SEC, for we always have felt like with Bruce, we're on the top, edge of like that middle ground line of the SEC. It's not a long distance between above the average line and below. So we've got to get some stuff figured out. Our defense is good enough to keep us in games. It is. It was tonight. It has been every game this year. I didn't watch Memphis. Maybe not in Memphis, but every other game, it's been good enough. But is it going to be good enough against elite competition? We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. Now we just had a cool stat that we were in the top 25 for the entirety of 2022, which was really fun. Looks like we got it in right under the wire, thank God. And it'll be really interesting that the next thing I think is this to change the attitude of the fans and everybody on the team too, that making the tournament is a big deal with this team. And it's going to be, let's keep the tournament streak going. Like it doesn't matter if we win or here, lose there, as long as we're in the hunt for the tournament, that's what's going to matter, instead of kind of some of our thoughts we might've had at the beginning of the season. And it'll be curious to see the tinkering.
Let's talk about that. Ryan sent a good text in our group thing talking about, this team is what they are. Maybe we should have seen it coming. We got our expectations too high. Jabari and Kessler, which is true, by the way. We said last year we were going to underrate the value of those two guys, and we did. But what were the expectations exactly for you? I've thought that the fact that we were ranked in the top 15 was weird. The fact that we've been ranked this whole season has been weird to me. What do you think most fans' expectations were, and what were yours compared to now? Because I don't know of many people. Look, I want to defend the SEC title. I want to ring chase. I want to do all that every year until it's mathematically impossible, just because that makes it fun. But I thought this was a middle tier SEC, 4, 5, 6, 7 in the SEC in the tournament. That's what I thought.
Well, I've been comparing it to that 2019, 2020 Auburn team. The majority of the time, a lot of veterans on that team. Maybe the offense wasn't very good, but you go undefeated and out of conference, you get a little momentum. And then you have a couple teams in the SEC not perform the way they should, and you pull an upset here or there, and you kind of had this like momentum going. And like I don't know if, we didn't win the SEC that year. We lost to Kentucky by just a game or two, and we got second, I believe, and we were kind of getting hot going into the SEC tournament. I think that's what I was kind of hoping for, is best case scenario. We kind of have a vet team that pulls out some close games here and there that maybe they shouldn't have, just because they are a little smarter than the other team, because they stayed confident. They stayed with a lot of chemistry. I thought that was going to be a big deal. We'd have more chemistry. We'd be playing tenacious defense, and we're kind of a little lost out there. And that's kind of the opposite of what I thought we were going to be. I thought we were going to be that team that maybe comes into the SEC early and gets some wins we shouldn't, because there's other teams with younger players trying to figure it out, while we had a bunch of vets doing it. Maybe even like Alabama during the COVID year, where they had all those vets and everybody else couldn't figure it out because of COVID, and I didn't think we were going to win the SEC or anything. I thought we had some really hyped up teams in Kentucky and Arkansas, and they've started to, Kentucky especially they've fallen out of the top 25, and Arkansas, I don't know what the scores of Missouri right now, but they're losing some of their stars. So this kind of scenario you were looking for is a vet team that could kind of take advantage of maybe some teams that are struggling and figuring it out. And now we've just, it all comes down to, honestly, and this, I think this really is, it's Chance and Johan not working out, and they thought they were going to work out. We didn't even need them to be close to Kessler, Jabari, but we needed them to bring some of that ceiling power, some of that like more athletic than anyone you got on your team, even if they're not the most polished guy yet. And we just don't have that threat out there, and it's really showing. And I think we have the tinker here with Jalen and Jonai right now, and give the ball down to them. But I think you have one more tinker left if that doesn't work, and that's throw them all back out there again and see if something can click. And you have that for another 3 or 4 games. And if that doesn't happen, you really tense up and you just try to turtle with some of our vet guys and say, make the tournament. Just figure like there
Well,
won't be another strategy of like how to fix this team. It'll be you guys want the tournament. That's here's the team. Make it happen.
it's a great comparison. It really is. You were spot on. I had to fact check you because I was like, did we get second in the league that year? We did. We were 3 games behind Kentucky. We went 12-6 though in the league, and I think we were probably going to be like a 5 seed in the tournament, which is people forget like that's really good. We've been a 4 or 5 every time we've been in, or a 2 last year, but like that's hard to do. And that's a great, and that team won. You remember all those close games they won? They were
That's
always
exactly what I was expecting. This team would have that vet kind of like
yeah.
wins it close when they need to. Has
But
those clutch guys, yeah.
who did that team have though? That was the guy. He became the guy.
Samir Dowdy. We do
Samir
not
Dowdy.
have a Samir Dowdy. Happy birthday, Samir. His birthday was like 2 or 3 days ago. But you're right. We don't have that star guy that goes and gets us the points when we need it. That's what we're missing. We're missing the Chance Westery, the chance we thought we had.
Well, and people are going to say, and I totally get it. At this point, we're almost halfway through the year. A lot of people are going to say we are what we are, and to an extent, that's true. The joy of coaching and playing is that their job is to not think that way, right? Like you always have to be ready to do the next thing, to get to the next step, to take the next game, and just build on it. North Carolina last year, great example. They were out of the tournament. They were under 500 in league play. They caught fire. That's not going to happen with this team, not making the comparison. But we've seen weird stuff. We always talk about Final Four team being 7-7 in the league before they won 12 straight games or whatever. That's not going to happen. But you can get better and you can figure some stuff out. I was fascinated when we thought Broome was going to at least maybe be out for tonight. I was fascinated to see how that was going to play out with Cardwell, and what that might change and what it might look like. So is there going to be a moment where Flanagan goes down or KD gets hurt or Zep gets hurt and Chance is back in the rotation again and he looks healthy and more confident? I don't think so, but it could. Heaven forbid Jalen gets hurt. Does Johan get all those minutes and find some confidence? Like the beauty of these seasons is there's so many games and you get these long story arcs, right? That's why we do this pod. It's a lot of fun to talk about the players and see what's going to happen. So I would just encourage everybody. You're right. The margin for error is just so small. Like as bad as things feel, as bad as they are, you had every opportunity to win a game on the road tonight. I don't think Georgia's the worst team in the league. I think they're 9, 10, 11, something like that. They're on the bottom half. They've played better. They're undefeated at home. This was their biggest win for sure, but they look better. Did they not look better to you than they have the last couple of years just watching the game?
Mike White's got them coached up, it looks like. Might have made them look good,
it's just different, right? It's a new voice. It's a different style. So anyway,
that we talked about in the text here right before this, I think that Mike White might be the next Frank Martin or Kermit Davis that's got Bruce's number, that just kind of understands how to beat Bruce a little bit, how to get him rattled. So we'll see if that's how it works out. I hope not, because we need to keep beating Georgia. But do you think, and maybe this isn't the silver lining, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like what happened tonight in Athens against a not good Georgia team is close to basement for what this team can be. I just don't see us getting much worse than this. I feel like this could be about as low as it gets. And if you're buying stock in the team, this is a good time to buy stock, because I look at these players. We've seen too much out of KD and Wendell and even Flanagan and even Jalen and these players to say that this is the best we're going to get out of them. Like it got to be better than this just on a baseline. The balls just didn't quite go our way tonight. Shots didn't go in. There's some weird ref calls I felt bad about, nothing that like turned the game, but still just a kind of an avalanche of things, This has got to be close to the basement.
You hope. But I think here's what I've noticed with not just our fan base, but just people maybe who don't watch as much basketball. Like after wins, the stock is always too high. And after losses, usually the stock is way too low. Typically you're somewhere in the middle. That's just maybe that's a life thing too. I think that's how life goes in general, but I don't think they're this bad. And again, if you think they're this bad, fine. But like, how are they this bad and almost won on the road? I mean, maybe people don't have a healthy enough respect for that part. I think they're going to be in a bunch of games. I was so thankful we won that close Florida game. Like when we've got a chance, it just feels like we need to kick the door down and get the win, right? Because we know there's going to be some games where we're probably overmatched. Um, I agree with you. It feels like a low point, but I just don't know about the offense. I sent y'all a graphic of that Kansas State Texas game that was 116 to 103 in regulation. Can you even? What sport are they playing? We're not playing that sport this year. Like there is no. I mean, we could score 100, I guess.
We're setting college basketball back an era here. The new era is starting to head towards the NBA where you're scoring 100 points, 80 points, 90 points. We're setting us back a bit.
It doesn't have to be that way. Now, we could do a whole podcast about how Bruce's teams have always been in the top 5 of scoring offense almost every year he's ever coached. Not going to happen this year. So for him, this is kind of uncharted territory. The offense isn't always pretty, but it scores points. This year, it's not scoring points. And I think it can work, but we've got to be completely bought in. The identity, what's the identity you talked about? It's got to be defense. It's got to be fundamentally sound defense. It's got to be rebounding and then taking care of the ball on the other end. It's like, I can't make a comparison to another sport that I really want to make a comparison to, but it's conservative, right? It's not our DNA. And maybe that's why we're struggling. The type of game we need to play right now is so not us. It's not Bruce Pearl. It's not what this program was built on. But with the personnel and what we've seen so far, you almost have to grind it to a halt and play really fundamental half-court.
Play like Virginia out here, score every game in the 50s.
Yes.
Oh, gross. That's the one bad part. This team is not great, and it's also not super fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot more fun when you're winning, right? I hear your point. If you win a bunch of close, low-scoring games, though, I think people will be pretty happy, especially if they come against, good teams like Alabama and Kentucky and Tennessee. But I don't know. Our staff is so good, and they've been so consistently good since they arrived at Auburn. This is clearly one of their biggest, toughest jobs to try to maximize whatever this team has to survive this gauntlet. It is a gauntlet. They have their work cut out for them, and the players do too. There's got to be more ownership on the defensive end, in my opinion. The offense is what it is, and we need to be better. We need to tinker. We need to do all the things. But man, I just want to see us cling to that defense, like no easy baskets. Like we're gonna box out. How many times was Janai alone going for rebounds tonight? A lot. Everybody rebound. Everybody box out. Everybody do the Chris Moore, Zep Jasper stuff. If we can be that, that's what that team you talked about.
We need something weird to happen outside the basketball team here. I think this would be, what's that TV show on Apple TV with the coach? Ted Lasso. We need some Ted Lasso situations here. Some weird like motivational speeches and little like quirky things to get this team engaged. I feel like Bruce is gonna have to channel a little Ted Lasso here, or we're gonna need something weird to happen off the field to rally the community together behind this team. And we represent X, Y, and Z. We've seen it 1,000 times in college basketball and college football. We saw it with in a different sport with like a kid that had cancer and that team goes off and beats the number 1 team or whatever. I don't want to wish any bad things to happen, but something, 4-14 with that team that won the SEC in 2018, some sort of motivation that brings this team together, that brings the intensity every night. And it's going to be tough to find and manufacture without something else outside of the game. We need to take a trip to, what we need to do? We need to get these boys up early in the morning, whistle them out of bed, start jogging. Don't tell them where to go. You end up in a Civil War battlefield and talk about how America brought together, how black people and white people can get together. And tonight we'll remember the Titans.
Oh man, that's we need something. And the only other point I would make about that, this is going to be a real test of our fan base's basketball maturity. It's going to be real easy to tune this team out for students, for people who are in Auburn and in the surrounding area. Maybe they have tickets. Maybe they're just like, I don't know. This is when you've got to ratchet it up. Like our home games are so pivotal to this season. We've said it already this year, but as you watch this season play out, every time a team comes in there, it needs to be like last year when we were dominating. And that's hard to get people to do. But if we want this team to be, a tournament consistent team, and we want to give them what's the only thing we can give them as fans, right? Is the support, the energy, the environment, and it does make a difference. Like the calls, the things tonight that didn't go our way, they tend to go your way a little more when you're at home. Like that would be my only challenge, and that goes for us too, as just fans watching. Like it's gonna probably be ugly. It's not gonna be the year we want it to have. It doesn't seem like right now, but the beautiful part about college basketball is there's really 4 seasons, right? And you just kind of stick with it, keep paying attention, keep supporting the team, keep memeing when we can meme, and don't give up halfway through the year. Like let's show some tenacity a little bit.
Well, if you're keeping up with our SEC prediction podcast host competition, if you haven't heard about it yet, I'm gonna keep posting about it on Twitter and Instagram, but we have a competition going between different podcast hosts in the Auburn sphere. And tonight, everyone picked the Georgia game to be a win. So there will not be any change in the scoreboard here amongst the different hosts. But the next game, we have about a 50-50 split between Arkansas for win versus loss. That'll be a big one to see who takes the lead on who gets the wins. I think I'm the only one that picked us losing to Ole Miss. Oh, nope. Ike Jones from the War Report picked us losing to Ole Miss. I think that looks very losable now. I think people kind of pick those as our early, options for wins away. But that's kind of the SEC conversation. Take a look out for new graphics. Ben's making some new graphics for the Instagram and Twitter and different things. So that'll be fun. Hopefully we'll have some interviews in the coming weeks. And I don't know if we want to talk real quick about SEC, if you can pull up some SEC schedules. I know we talked about Kentucky and Arkansas and different people having some struggles out there.
Yeah. And again, you just never know. Missouri, through a game and a half, is the surprise team in the league. They beat Kentucky in the opener. They are beating Arkansas at halftime right now in Arkansas. Let me get to this here.
Kentucky is out of the top 25 after losing to Missouri and just playing not great basketball. They're not looking good out there. So that's a lot of fun. You hope this team is good enough to maybe take advantage of that in Lexington. I doubt it after watching tonight, but we still haven't won in Lexington since the 80s. It'd be real fun to pull something off.
Let's go to the standings here. Yeah, Kentucky's not playing great right now. The bad part for Auburn through 2 games is that Tennessee and Alabama look really good. And that's not what any of us want to see. Kentucky, Alabama is this Saturday, by the way. That'll be an interesting matchup. So Alabama and Tennessee are at 2-0 right now. And then you've got Missouri trying to stay undefeated on the road at Arkansas as we do this. Georgia is now 1-0. Vanderbilt's 1-0 with an overtime win over South Carolina the other night. And then Auburn and Kentucky are 1-1. LSU's 1-1. Again, the goal for this Auburn team was just to hang around. So you want Tennessee and Alabama to lose and give everybody a loss and just see if you can beat Arkansas at home. See if you can beat Ole Miss. And then, it really does just take a couple games to go your way to all of a sudden you look up and it's like, oh, well, maybe it's not so bad. But it's tough to get them when things are going like this. It feels like things are struggling a little bit.
So we're not alone in the struggles, but we'll see which ones we can bite off here. Any other thoughts for the end of the podcast?
No, not really. Frustrating loss. I really hate losing to Georgia. We have struggled in Athens and on the road a lot. We struggled against Mike White. Maybe we should have had a little more respect. You just thought, I think Auburn was 6 or 7 point favorite tonight. I think we can safely say this year that Auburn was given a lot of benefit of the doubt nationally in rankings and all that, which is good because it gives us some leeway to kind of figure some things out. We're still pretty highly thought of in a lot of metrics and a lot of things, but we got a lot of work to do. And I need the defense to be better, and I need Jalen to score. That's what I need. And then, there's a lot. I'm done. I'm done talking.
My final thoughts are RIP Arnold's Country Kitchen in Nashville. Great establishment, going out of business. Meeting 3. Had to bring it up because Matt had it on his tabs here, but sad.
I'm gonna go Friday night for dinner.
Go get them. They're like Penny George's, right? Penny George's in Auburn, another Meeting 3 establishment. It's like that in Nashville. RIP. Thanks guys for listening. Sad it's a loss. I hope everybody keeps listening during these losses. I think we'll learn a lot talking with each other. So
And
hopefully we'll have a fun one next time against Arkansas. It's a big matchup.
yeah, just so everybody knows, late night game. I think it's 8:30 Eastern for Arkansas Saturday night prime time at home. Let's make it a good crowd. And let's see if this team can bounce back and kind of restore some hope for the Auburn people.
War Eagle, Matt.
Where you go, everybody.